Welcome back to the Platform Skate Podcast, episode number 19.
Number 19 with Matty Carruthers.
Right on. Thanks, guys.
This goes way back, Matty.
Yeah.
Way back. I was trying to think how far back this goes when we were skating at the old platform. I was a couple weeks ago, I was looking through some old footage, and there was footage of you hanging out at the platform as a kid. And then shortly after that, you contacted me. And so it's awesome that you can be here and we can chat. So welcome.
Right on. Thanks for having me, man. Yeah, it is awesome. I seen some footage online, and I was like, what's this platform? Someone sent it to me.
Okay.
And I look on there, and it's Adam Thompson on this podcast, and I'm watching. I'm like, man, this is so therapeutic for, and so I messaged you. I'm like, what's going on? And you're like, yeah, we're doing these podcasts. I'm like, oh, I'm in. I got to get some of this therapy, man. You guys are sitting around for an hour and a half talking about the platform and the old fire pit and the tabletops and the curbs and oh man. So
yeah.
It's like, yeah, I'll get me some of that,
Awesome. Right on. So as I think about that, as I think about you as a kid at the old platform, in my mind, I see like the really baggy pants and you were just like one of the guys that would just always seem to be around. Like you were just that typical skate rat that just was like hanging out there, and you kind of had a crew that you rolled with, and it was just a typical kind of crew that you would see at the platform.
Yeah.
And then kind of lost touch, I guess, over time.
Yeah.
And so we'll use this podcast as opportunity to catch up.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I mean, I lost touch with a lot of things, when I kind of went my own way, but you kind of got it right. Like the baggy pants and I wore whatever clothes I could find. I didn't have, a whole lot of, I wasn't one of the cool kids. I didn't have the name brand stuff and everything. Like that was kind of what separated me from a lot of the other skater kids when I was young. Was I didn't have a lot of the name brand skate shoes or like even good boards. Like there was one time, I think it was Steve or one of you guys bought me a skateboard, man. And I can't remember who it was, but it was a Powell Angel Boy. And I it was my favorite deck, man. That thing had pop, man.
Well, I do remember you. Like your boards were always really haggard.
Yeah, I abused them. I abused them. I was pretty hard on them, man. Just diving off that upper level of the platform all the time. That was kind of something I always kind of migrated to. Was those high pops. Those like when we had that tabletop. This was when the steel ramps came in. There was that one tabletop that had the wall beside it. And welded to it. It had that sidewall, and I remember one of the things that I got good at was I'd skate to it. I'd drop in off that drop-in ramp, and I'd just pump as hard as I could. I'd go up and across, and then I'd ollie off that platform part and down. That's like a 4 or 5 foot drop, right? So slam.
Yeah.
So as bad as it was on my knees, it was equally as bad on the decks, right?
Yeah.
So I was pretty bad for the stress cracks and for ripping through boards, man. Yeah, and again, like I would just whatever boards I could find. I took a lot of hand-me-downs from people, and I took what I could, right? Same with like the baggy pants and the whatever shoes. Like, man, sometimes I'm in there with like shoes from like Red Apple, that would like fall apart in like 2 days, whatever, and that's how I'm still able to pop a varial in Nikes, so, right. So, but yeah, like I was definitely a skate rat for sure. I was always there.
Yeah. How old would you have been when you started hanging out there?
I was young, man.
I remember you being pretty young.
I was young. I was little, I was probably about 11 or 12, man, when I started going there, and I didn't live far. And And I had a little brother that would come with me too and try his stuff out. And like, I fell in love with it right away. I mean, I didn't get along with a lot of the skater kids there, or a lot of the kids there. That was my own thing. I was kind of a socially awkward kid, but I fell in love with that slab of concrete. And just with the things that I was learning about myself as I continued to go. And I, some days were good, some days were bad.
Right.
But, I developed heart over time just going, and I would stay there from like, man, I would like in the summer, like between school, even during school sometimes.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure I saw you there when school was on.
And I'd stay all day long. Like I would be there from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., and like if I was ever in trouble at home, my mom knew right where to find me. She'd pull up and so that was my second home. It turned into my second home. Yeah. And it became so much more to me over time. And once I got a little bit better at skating and just more loyal to it, there's a lot that the sport of skateboarding has taught me now, that I apply in my life now as an adult, the independence, the what's the word I'm looking for? The independence, just the heart and the drive,
perseverance,
the drive, like just the will to just not give up and push yourself, and the individuality of it too. Yeah. Like the freedom to be original and to kind of make something your own, right? I apply that a lot in my life now. And, it's gotten me through a lot. And I mean, towards the end, before the platform was demolished, that place was therapeutic to me. By that time, a lot of the skaters had split up. People were doing different things. Guys were growing up, leaving. Guys were skating in other places, and there wasn't a lot of bodies left there anymore.
No,
it got it got pretty empty there. For me, that was great because that gave me the whole platform. Some days I would be there for hours, man, by myself. And it would be therapeutic for me to just have that freedom and nobody in the way or anything. I can just go. And, when as I got into like later teenage years, and I'd go through whatever problems a teenage boy would go through, I'd go there and I would take a lot of my stuff out just on my skateboard. And I mean, today now, I'll go for a longboard, right? I mean, I can't do it like I used to.
Right.
But even just hitting the longboard up and down that path along the crescent, or up and down the path along the tracks, especially along the tracks. 'Cause you can go by where it used to be and you can look at that storage lots and you're just like, wow, man, like, like my whole childhood was right there, and I just skate back and forth and it's peaceful, so.
So if you're saying that you spent quite a bit of time by yourself, and I remember there being a little crew that you were part of, as I mentioned earlier, was there not a crew then? Or
there was a crew. I kind of would just kind of go around. I'd flock around from different people, but there was a smaller crew. I guess I'd hang out with like the Haddad boys.
Right.
Those were close buddies of mine. I'm still pretty close with those boys for sure.
Yeah.
There's people I haven't spoke to in so long because,
you had some girls that were part of that kind of circle of friends too that hung out there, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. There was always a few skater chicks that were pretty loyal, I guess, and would be there all the time, man. Yeah. There was like, Miriam. Yeah. Miriam was one of them. She was she had a lot of heart. There was that Keely Glennon. She was another one. But it was small, yeah. And I mean, I knew everybody. I didn't get along with everybody, but I knew everybody there. We all kind of had our little cliques there, eh? And like some days we were more divided than other days. It all depended what was going on in each of our own.
Right. Not wanting to get into the dirt and drama of it, but I'm just curious what would have been the the reason why you weren't getting along with everyone there, because that's not the way I remember it. I remember you, like you said, just kind of like moving around within groups and stuff, and just kind of being Matty.
Well, I don't think there was really a whole lot of drama or reason, really, other than the age difference. I think, it was the most part. I was younger than a lot of the guys there that I looked up to them, but I was also just wasn't I wasn't where they were, and I definitely wasn't as good a skater as a lot of them were. And when you're younger like that stuff's important. Like popularity and skill and all that. And I was an awkward kid. So a lot of times I would just isolate on my own too. Like it wasn't necessarily because there was any kind of problem. It was just I was more comfortable being off on my own kind of thing, So
you enjoyed like skating by yourself then?
Or, like even now for sure. Like when I'm on a board and I'm going, it doesn't matter to me so much like if I land a trick or if I get good at something. It's more just what I'm getting out of it therapeutically. It's just mentally, it's peaceful to me. It centers me. I mean, back when I was younger, when I was really putting more into it, sure. I would try to learn the trick, and I'd give myself so much time to learn this trick, and and it got me far enough. But as I got older and I got into other things and stuff, I mean, you lose that a little bit, right?
That's
you never lose the
interesting.
love for it. You never lose the love for it. No. It's definitely a love-hate thing, and it's a lifestyle that you can take with you for the rest of your life.
Well, it's like Adam said, once a skater, always a skater. Right?
Like it's Adam was a great skater, man. Me and him, we were rivals, man. Like we did not like each other at all when we were kids.
That's interesting.
Yeah, for sure. So there's been a lot of there's been a lot of back and forth. Hey, man, I'm sorry. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like we get along pretty good for the most part now. We're not like best friends or anything either, but we respect each other.
Yeah.
And we can hold conversations down now without fighting about everything. But even like all the guys, even on the days that we would have our spats and our arguments or whatever, I still respected them as skateboarders. Like Adam was an excellent skateboarder, and he had a lot of heart and he had a lot of skill. Like that kid could skate. And I think now looking back, a lot of my problems there was jealousy too.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I just couldn't do it as good as some of them, right? But I looked up to those guys, man, and I idolized those guys like Brett Helmke or McDougall, Brett McDougall, like holy, and Corey Lawson, these guys were it for me. So, being a young, smaller kind of little squeaky kid, and seeing these guys doing what I want to do, man, and being that young, like that's a big reason what kept me going back too. Like these were people I could learn from. So I'd watch them and watch them and watch them, right?
Yeah. So when the ramps got moved to the Campbell Soup, did you end up going over there? Like, I don't remember seeing you there a lot, but I could be wrong.
Well, I went there a few times to check it out, but I was still way more drawn to the platform because, and it wasn't for any bad reasons. It's just the platform is the platform. I mean,
it's where you grew up.
Like you can build as many skate parks around here as you want and put as much money into it, or build it as nice, and that's great, but to a platform kid, right? It ain't the platform.
Yeah.
I mean, that as long as that concrete was still there, you could do whatever. And like that was ours. And, like before all the ramps and everything, when we were building our own stuff, bringing railroad ties in, and even shopping carts and couches and all these things to try to ollie and work into our skating,
For sure.
Picnic tables were big. Guys would steal benches and bring them in, and we would use that stuff, right? And to practice our grinding and our board slides and everything, right? So, and that place was a part of my childhood. So, it was more special to me to just continue at the because I knew, it was probably not going to be there forever. right? So I spent as much time as I could there. And like I said, once most people migrated to the Campbell Soup, it freed up that platform, right? And where I liked to skate alone, you know, so that's what I did. A lot of my stuff was like, I wasn't much of a vert skater.
Right.
I was more of just a freestyle kind of pop skater, you know. A lot of it was just flip tricks and you know, ollie tricks and a few slides here and there. Like, it wasn't. I got okay with vert, and that's thanks to the steel ramps that went up there.
Right.
But I you know, I started off just on flat grounds, freestyling it, you know, and that's where I find my therapy, like I like to say, right?
Talk about your perception of the vibe that was there when you were, especially like when you were really young and there, like what, like you kind of mentioned it already, but just maybe talk about what the experience was like hanging out there.
Well, one thing that I always think about is the sunset there. There's, because of where it was and how it was kind of close. It was close to the overpass.
Yeah.
And when the sun would set, it would set on the other side of the overpass. And it would just give this look, you know, it would just radiate this light all over the platform. And like, everybody felt it. Everybody felt the energy, you know, and it was like, you could cut it. It was just really, Adam said a word when I watched his nostalgic.
Yeah.
And he's right. Like, it was just really, you've just had this feeling in you that you couldn't get anywhere else. And it's because of like the grunginess of it, man, the spray paint, you know, and the ashes from the fire pit and like the broken glass, you know, just the real freedom. Like, it showed like the freedom that we had there. And it showed that, that independence that we had, the just to be original and just be free was a big thing, right? There was blood stains all over it. It was right, like we, you know, and like skid marks from us hitting pebbles, and we hitting the pebbles, and then you go, right? You know, and it just, a certain time of the day there, around supper time, after supper, man, in the summer times when the sun was starting to set. There was a vibe there that everybody, you could just feel it. Everybody was just right into it and just being there. And it was just a beautiful feeling, man. And it was real. Like, and it's just like, you just had to look at each other and you knew, like, this is where you wanted to be in that moment. It was a mindful, it was almost like it just made everybody at peace and at once. You know, and I don't know. I can't really put the right descriptive words to I couldn't name that energy. Right. There, you can't label, like what it was, because it's freedom. Like, and it was,
and that's why I want you to describe it, because that's always the struggle, right? Is to explain to somebody what the platform meant and was. And so, as much description as you can give, which is awesome. You're doing a good job of describing it.
I'm trying, for sure. I mean, it's been a part of who I am as a person, man. Like, that place. Like, even after it got torn up, I cried, you know. And I also skated by when it was just rubble, and I walked up and I grabbed a chunk of it. Yeah. You know, and I think that it's in my mom's grads right now. Right. And it had a piece of spray painting on it. Now, Brian Hepner, he was another huge influence at the platform when I was younger, someone I really looked up to. He had his last name spray painted, it's Hepner, on the bottom level of the platform. We had this curb stop there. And it was right along the side of the curb stop on the north side of the platform. Yeah. And his name was in like blue and red, Hepner or something like that. And I'm pretty sure that the chunk that I grabbed had a little piece of that on there, right? So it meant a lot to me. And, you know, like, I think about it all the time, man. And just, I go back there a lot when I'm going through my own things, like in recovery and stuff. Like I'm an addict, and I'm in recovery, and that's a huge part of who I am now. That would be probably why we kind of lost split parts there when I got out of skateboarding. I got into some problems with drugs and alcohol, and you know, sitting in rehab, there was a lot of times where I would dig myself into myself, and I would find that same little kid that had the heart to keep going to the platform every day, no matter who was there, who I didn't get along with.
Yeah.
And or like, cause we had there was a lot of fights between other neighborhood kids too. And us skater kids, like there was always rivalries there.
Yeah.
Whether it was between schools or whatever, there was always rivalries. Right. And there was sometimes there'd be violence there, and sometimes there'd be, things there that were kind of threatening, but I kept going because I loved it, and I had the heart, and I wanted to prove myself, right? Because I wasn't as good as a lot of them, I really wanted to prove myself, and eventually I started to, because I got better at skating, and I got more respectful myself as well, and that was through the practice, and today, practicing my recovery, practicing a new life of sobriety, and finding myself again, after a lot of years in addiction. It's that same strength, that same heart, that same want to prove myself.
Okay.
That I learned through skateboarding and through the platform. So I owe a lot of my own freedom now to that kid that never quit at the platform.
That's really good. And I think there's a lot of people that are going to appreciate hearing that, and it'll be a huge encouragement to other people. I think just to hear how skateboarding is part of that. And so, keep talking about that. I'd love to hear more about your recovery and how that plays a big part in the recovery, and maybe we can encourage other people that are listening that maybe struggle in the same way.
For sure. Like that's kind of what, and that's a part of my recovery too, like, is to help wherever I can. I mean, first things first, right? I can't pull anyone else out of that quicksand if I'm not tied to a tree first. Yeah. But essentially that's kind of how my work and my program works is, we can only kind of keep what we have by giving it away to other people. And, there's a lot, and I mean, it's everywhere right now. The epidemic with crystal meth and all these other drugs, man, it's everywhere. And it's a lot worse than when we were kids. Like when I was there, weed and booze was the problem around the platform, Like that's where I smoked my first cigarette. I mean, I got in trouble there a little bit, but there wasn't anything close to what it is now, and it's dangerous, man. And it sucks that the platform isn't there now for kids to go to. But I'm kind of relieved too, because I don't think you can bring that back, like the kind of culture and the type of kids that we were. Like, you don't see that anymore. The world's changed a lot.
It has, yeah. To bring it back now, it just would be a completely different thing, right?
Yeah, it wouldn't be the same. No. I mean, it was all these things that made it what it was. It was the platform, it was the people, it was, the work that we put into it, and all these things that just made it what it was. And it was our own little culture, and it wouldn't be the same. And we have those ramps and stuff by the arena there, and that's great, because that's just there and it's open, and but I mean, it's not the same. It's just not the same. Like, it's just something that was so special that you can't replace it. So instead, I'm grateful that I was part of it, and you can still take those lessons, and we can help other people from what we've learned there. So if anything, like the place, it didn't go up in flames in vain, for my story, because I can still use the things that I learned from that place to help other people today.
That's right. Yeah, for sure. And that's one thing that I've always I always think about skateboarding too is the values that it instills in us is it takes us a long ways outside of skateboarding.
Yeah.
Just because skateboarding can be a heavy thing to do, right? Like just in like, especially for those of us that don't have the natural talent to like the amount of work that you put into progression.
That's right.
And then to look at the amount of work that it takes to be successful, it just correlates so well, right? Going back to your recovery, let's, if you're comfortable, let's talk some more about that.
Sure. Let's.
Your first kick at recovery, what did that look like?
Okay, so I've been in and out of recovery now for about 6 years.
Okay.
My first kick at it was my first attempt at rehab, I guess.
What got you there?
Well, I had, let me think now, because this last time I was in there was my fourth time. And, you know, essentially what's different this time is I'm doing it for me. So what got me there wasn't because I was ready. I was in the problem and I lost my kids, basically. I lost my daughter. You know, I lost, me and my daughter's mom had broken up, and, you know, she kept my kid, and I had this huge cocaine problem, you know, and so I went back to get my daughter back, and it got me a little bit of clean time, and I enjoyed myself while I was there. Okay. But it wasn't enough because I wasn't ready, you know. It got me a bit of clean time. I fought through it. I got my daughter back, and great. But eventually, because I didn't continue to make change in my whole life, I didn't try to like make a new life that I didn't want to run away from anymore. I just kind of went back to the same thing, the same group of people, the same job, the same. So the same thing happened.
You just slip back.
After a while, you slip back, right? So the second time again was to, I think there was, I got in some trouble, some legal problems. And the only way that I knew out of basically staying out of jail was to go to rehab because they were drug-related charges. Yeah. Right. So, you know, again, wasn't for the right reason for me. You know, so it got me, it helped me out in court. But once I got through that trial, I slipped. Yeah. So, I mean, but it wasn't like I got nothing from any of these times, you know. I'm grateful for that first time I went because I was able to retain some tools and knowledge from that time and from the second time and the third time, right? You know, the third time was for, you know, someone that I was very close with that was diagnosed with cancer. And, you know, she was a girlfriend of mine that we loved each other a lot. And, you know, she got sick and she was like, I need you to clean up, man. I got about a year to live, you know? And you know, I was into some pretty chaotic drugs at that time where I was not able to take care of myself. And, you know, so I went back and, you know, I got clean, but she passed. I slipped. So, and when I slipped that last time, right, that was, now I'm numbing from grief, stuff, right? So I had a lot of reasons to just stay in relapse for a while. And that, you know, now that's evolving out of just drug use. Now I'm like abusing people and I'm hurting my family and I'm pushing everyone away, you know? And now I only know one way to cope is like anger and using. Yeah. You know? So now I'm starting to really see how I'm messing myself up. And, you know, eventually I took enough drugs to kill somebody and I said goodbye and I went to sleep and I woke up. So right then and there, I said, okay, God's not done with me yet.
That was my first thought when you said that.
Right?
It's
he's not letting me die. He's not letting me go to jail. He's not letting, you know, like, okay, man. Okay, big guy. You know, like,
got my attention.
All right. Like he's only opening one door for me here. Right. So it's like, get in there. Right. So this last time I was able to go in with that open mind and, you know, to accept a higher power and to, that surrender, that's huge in recovery, man.
That's right.
You know, and I mean, a lot of us addicts, we're pretty resentful towards the idea or the word God. It's a really, really scary word for us. So once I was able to just grasp a concept of a higher power of my understanding, you know, that changed everything for me.
Yeah.
So a combination of, you know, a conscious contact with a higher power and digging up that little kid with that, you know, that I'll show you, watch me, I can do this regardless, you know, of the people that don't believe in me or do believe in me or whatever. I mean, you don't want to do it for that reason to prove yourself to anyone else. But hey, man, if it gets you a day clean, wherever you pull your motivation from, especially in early recovery, just do whatever you got to do to not use. Until you start accumulating those days, and then you can start evolving and progressing in your recovery and really understanding what it is. And it's, for me, it's just going back to when I started, you know, like my addictions were prescribed to me. Okay. So being that awkward kid, I had a lot of learning disorders. I've been to the Youth for Christ as a kid, you know, trying to get extra help with my schooling, and I went through counseling and all that stuff. I had some social problems and behavioral problems. And one day I went to the doctor, and they're like, "Here, try these pills." Right? I got onto these super pills, and that was it, man. Boom. Like, I could do my homework, your homework, I'll do your homework. You know what I mean? So like, and like my locker was organized. I was talking to girls. I was talking to people like clearly and assertively. I was no longer like in my shell. I was really social, and like all these great things started happening, right?
How old would you have been then?
I was about 14 years old.
Okay.
13 or 14 years old. So that was, you know, that was great. It, you know, it felt, it was perfect. That was the day that my brain stopped depending on itself to process life. Right. And it started depending on these substances. So that's when it all started. You know, so, but that's also when I was that kid that had that drive and that was at the platform and stuff. And that's why when I'm sitting in detox and rehab and I'm digging and I'm trying to find who I am, you got to go back to when you started using, right? So that's why it all just coincides again with that skater kid, right? Because that's who I was when I got into it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So again, it's just all plays. It's beautiful. It really is. Like when I make recovery the happy ending there, it's almost the ending to my story of the platform. Right. I mean, that's so in my experience, that place plays a huge factor in my life, in all of it, you know. And there's almost every day in recovery, I think about that kid that just got up and just went for it, regardless if he could land that trick today or not. He's trying. Right.
Wow, that's beautiful.
You're right. Thanks, man. You know.
Yeah, it is.
You know, so that's I mean, and that was the difference. The third, I mean, that's what it is. That's what skateboarding is, man. It doesn't matter how many times you fall. What matters is you don't stop and you don't give up.
I was thinking about that actually when you were talking about, you know, having to do the 4 different sessions of rehab. And just that idea that it's not a failure to have to do it again, right? Like it's just part of the process. And I think that's important for our listeners to hear that it's process. And if it takes more times, then it takes more times, just like to learn the trick, right? Like
exactly.
There's a lot of failure that happens before we get success.
That's right. You're not gonna.
You said the word practice. And I think that was a really good word. Like just practicing, going back for it. Like I guess I'm thinking like a lot of the time people will go to a spot or whatever and they'll try this trick for hours and then they don't land it and they go back or whatever and they just keep practicing. And so even like just going back to rehab, like that was just, you know, you're just going back to practice and it's just,
like through the adversity and through the hot, like it wasn't, a lot of days weren't easy.
Oh, for sure.
You know, And I never stopped. And that's that skater mentality, right? You don't stop. You don't stop. Do you want to learn how to do this varial kickflip or not? You know, like, do you want to learn how to board slide or not? Like, you fell? Well, get used to it, man. You're skateboarding. Like, you should see my knees, man. Right? Like, and I wouldn't know how to skate at all. I wouldn't know how to stand on a board. I wouldn't know how to do anything on a skateboard if I didn't, you know, and I apply that in my life today. Just, again, you know, just don't give up. You're not going to learn the trick. You're not going to learn the trick if you give up. It doesn't matter how many times you fall, man. And that's a huge message in recovery. Go to rehab if you need, and it's not for everybody either. There's some people that just find God and that's all they need. There's some people that find the 12 steps and that's all they need. And there's other guys like myself that kind of need to dabble in a little bit of everything. Right. You know, I know people that I've heard of people that have gone to rehab like 20, 30 times, man, before they finally got it, but they did not give up. And those people have 5, 10, 15, 20 years clean. Yeah. And that's just not using drugs. That's finding out your life and learning, like, that's getting your life back. Yeah. And that's what recovery is. It's not just not learning to not use drugs. Like, that's not it. Like, that's the very, very, very tip. That's the surface. That's the grip tape. You know what I mean? Yeah. And you got all these layers underneath and you know, 20 years for me of substance use and everything. That's a lot of numbing and being disconnected with that little kid, you know. So I mean, in early recovery, your mind is getting clean, and holy man, is it! And early recovery is just as crazy as being in addiction, you know, because your mind is catching up with itself. Yeah. Oh yeah. You know, and your maturity, your mind maturity is speeding up to where you are. And like, it's crazy. I didn't know you could have so many different feelings in one day, man. Right? So, I mean, and just learning to cope with each of those feelings, that's what it is. And skateboarding, again, you know, just hitting the longboard, man. Like I said, I'm 34 years old now. And, you know, I can't bust tricks like I used to, or, you know, like I can't do that. Like, it's hard, man. So I, you know, just going on the longboard, 20 minutes on the longboard, and I'm getting therapy. And that means that is so helpful for me now as I try to live clean. Yeah. Right? Because that's what it is. Like, it's mental health. Right? So that's what it's always was, even when we didn't know. Right? Yeah. I was just a kid trying to be cool. Right. And I was a kid that just really loved skateboarding and really loved that place. And that was as far as I knew. But man, if I would have been able to look 20 years into the future, I would have probably put a lot more into it. You know? Yeah, for sure. So, but that's where, you know, this is why I wanted to sit and talk about this, and this is why this is just beautiful. Like, it really is therapeutic for me to sit here and talk about the platform and skateboarding and how the roles that it plays in my life now. Yeah. You know? That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's great that we can get the recovery stuff in here too, because it does reach out. I mean, this interests a lot of kids, a lot of younger people. So this is a great opportunity to kind of get that seed in, like just to never ever give up on whatever your goals are. It doesn't have to just be skateboarding. It can be school or work or anything. For sure. Keep that skater mentality and you'll win. Right?
Yeah, I was going to say, at 34 years old, you aren't too old. You can still come out and skate with us and get some of your tricks back.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and it's good that there's a little spot here that we can do that, and you guys got some boards to loan me and everything. That's like, I do want to get back into it, learn a few more tricks for sure. I'm pretty sure I can still bust a good varial right now. I'm pretty confident. I got my globes on, you know, so I think, you know, I think I can still do a few things, but it would take practice, and it'd be nice to shake off some of the cobwebs, you know. You know, because I mean, I'm hiding from a lot of things when I'm using that longboard, right? Makes it easy. I'm still skateboarding, you know, right? So, yeah,
for sure. And another question I have for you is, who is Clean Matty now?
That's a really good question. How much time do we got here? Clean Matty is a very driven individual. He's somebody that doesn't like to be told that he can't do something. He's got a little bit of ego, but some of it's healthy. He's very motivational, and he has a hell of a story to tell. And he's extremely grateful. That's who Clean Matty is. He's a grateful, content person. I'm not going to say I'm happy because I don't know what that means.
Okay.
You know, because like I said, I'm still learning how to cope with all these crazy feelings going on. So, but from what I've learned myself so far is I'm just a bigger version of that little kid, man. I'm driven, and I still got that heart. And, you know, I got my regrets and my sorries, and that's part of the 12 steps that I'm taking is making amends and learning to forgive myself.
Yeah.
And as I learn to do that, I become a lot less resentful, and that helps me in so many ways, right? So again, that feeds into that gratitude. I wake up every morning grateful, man. Like I open my eyes. That's 2 gifts right there that I open, you know?
Yeah.
And I shouldn't be here. You know, like I've overdosed. I've been in jail, in and out of jail all the time. I've been in abusive relationships where I've been the abuser, and I've been abused, and I've been, you know, I've rolled with some dangerous people, and I've been into some sketchy places like around Winnipeg or even out in Halifax, like in the cities, and it's just I have some crazy stories, you know. It's crazy that I'm still here, and the amount of drugs that I've put in my body, you know. It's just insane, and that's what got me in the last time is like there's no way I shouldn't be alive right now.
Yeah.
And that's where, you know, I found that higher power. So I mean the gratitude that comes with it is huge. It's really huge, you know. So
yeah, I love that appreciation of looking back and being able to say I shouldn't be here. And understanding that there's something bigger going on. I think there's a few of us that can relate to that in some ways, probably not as big as what you're talking about, but yeah, just that idea that there's something else going on, and we need to take the opportunity to recognize that and to be curious, I think, what that's about.
Well, just open-minded, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the big thing, and that's how they teach you. Like there's an acronym for HOW, and the acronym is honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. You know, and keeping that open mind. I mean, for me, I was beaten into submission with it. You know, I had no other choice but to just say, hey, man, I don't got this. You know? Like I don't have control of my life. Whenever I try to control my life, I end up in a really shitty place. You know, and as soon as I accept that I don't have this, things start to change for me. And that was it. I mean, and for me to accept, to entertain the idea of a higher power, like an addict told me this, you know, I'm sitting in a meeting and I'm like, there's no God, there's no higher power. He's like, well, what about drugs, man? He's like, weren't drugs your higher power?
Yeah.
You know, they controlled your life. You worshipped them. You would do anything for them. I'm like, whoa, like that just boom. That's mind blowing, right? I was so you would rather drugs be your God than something you don't understand?
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy, like this guy's really just did that. He really just dumped all that on me. Like, really, man? Like, but that helped me a lot. Just try to keep my open mind to it, right? And it's like, okay, I guess I'll try this, right? And then slowly but surely, you know, and now my faith grows and my conscious contact stays, and I respect that. You know, the way I see it is when I cut off that conscious contact with my God, and I'd rather just nurture that contact because it's helping me a lot through a lot of things, and it's taking me out of my own will and practicing something else's, right on. And it's making a good person out of me, you know. And it's great. Like, not only should I be dead, I should be like in jail or somewhere, like, I've done a lot of stupid things and hurtful things. And like, I should be an angry kind of mean person, but I'm not. I've been blessed with happiness, and I'm a great dad, and I'm I'm a hard worker, and I'm smarter than I thought I was. And like, all these things, like, and I'm really passionate, and I'm noticing all these good things about myself. I wouldn't have been able to say that stuff about myself when I was in the problem,
Yeah.
So it's just, these are all little gifts that recovery has given me, and anybody can have them. You get out of it what you put into it.
Yeah.
So for me, I was done. Like, I didn't just want to go to rehab. That didn't help me the first 3 times. I want to change my life, right? That's why, I'm making all these changes now. I got out and I put myself in school, and my work called me around the same time. And I loved my work, I was a pipe layer for Sewer and Water, a pipe layer's helper. I've been a laborer all my life in construction, and I love hard work, working with my hands, but it was always a toxic environment some way there. I'm always working with someone that's drinking or using, not on sites or anything, but just knowing, right, that option was always there for me. It was just detrimental to my recovery. And just the kind of, once you get used to a certain language that recovery teaches you, you crave that. You need that, because that gets the endorphins in my head that I crave, is that positive energy, right? And you don't get that in a lot of construction sites and things like that. It's a different vibe. And for me, it would have been insane to go for the 4th time and just simply go right back to the same life.
Right.
Because recovery is basically building yourself a life that you don't want to run from anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's why I'm choosing school now over the money and things like that. Money was never good for me anyway, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I'd rather be broke and happy, and grateful and it helps keep me humble.
Yeah.
So it's.
So what's the end goal with school?
Well, I'm taking my grade 12 right now. I'm hoping to get my degree in social work. I'm also taking a side course right now, a peer support course that can help me qualify me for peer support. So my goal is an addictions counselor someday.
Okay. Oh, awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I'm working towards that. Anything that's involved with addiction, not necessarily counseling, but just as long as I'm part of helping addicts that want to help themselves get clean, I'm happy with that, man.
What better person than someone that's been down that road?
Well,
right?
Exactly, right? Like, it's not like I don't got the experience, and that is an asset. Like, at my rehab center I was at, like 90% of the workers there are addicts in recovery,
right?
And it's very essential to have. You can only you can't be taught that style of thinking. You can't. It's just like skateboarding. You can't. Someone can try and show you how to do the trick, but there's such an individuality to it that's it's like one trick can be done so many different ways.
Yeah.
So many different techniques, right? So it's really up to you and how it works for you. And like it's the same thing as your program. You work your program and whatever works for them. All I can do is pass my experience. I'm not going to say that what works for me is going to work for you.
Right.
But I can say that once you find out what works for you, it's on.
Yeah.
Like that's it, the main thing is you got to do it for you. So like now, like home or no home, job or no job, woman or no woman, kids or no kids, I'm not going to pick up. Like that's it. It's because I'm not doing it for any of those reasons other than I want to be clean. Right. So, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. And we wish you all the best in that as you pursue the career and stuff that's a dream that you'll see come.
For sure.
Yeah, that's really good.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's where I'm at now. I mean, that's where I've come from, that little skate rat.
Yeah.
With the baggy pants. I mean, Yeah, I was looking at old newspaper clippings and stuff that my grandma had in a scrapbook, and I'm like, wow, look at that skinny little kid, eh?
Yeah.
15 years old, riding the ramps, and I'm looking at my shoes, and I'm just shaking my head. It's like, oh, where did I get those? So, but yeah, no, I think about it all the time. In that board, I think about that board, or the concave of that board was just perfect, you know, and it was perfect, and it had pop, like it was a beautiful board.
Nice.
I wish I knew exactly who got me that board, because I want to thank them, but someone did. They brought me right to Winnipeg. I think it was BA. I think it was Boarders Anonymous that we went to.
Yeah.
And man, he picked out the whole setup for me, man. I think it was Independence. I think it was bones, bearings, and can't remember what kind of wheels they were, but yeah, it was a whole setup, man. He's like, here you go, man. Sweet. You know,
what a gift.
Yeah, for sure. When you're a little broke little kid like that, holy, that was, you know, and it lasted. Yeah, because I took a little more care of it, right? Because it wasn't a hand-me-down from Kyle Haddad or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, man. So, yeah, the platform. That's the platform to me anyway.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's just really great having you in to share your stories. Was there anything else that you wanted to let people know before we wrap it up?
I miss it, you know, and I'm really proud of a lot of the people that were a part of it then and who they've become. I mean, some of them have become, you know, pretty great at what they do, you know, and some of them have moved on and grown up to live really successful lives, and they're fathers and husbands, and they're really good at what they're doing. And I'm really just as proud of a lot of them as I was then, and I still look up to a lot of them the way I did then, you know, and I just, all love and respect, you know. That's what it is. I mean, we all have that same love for that place, that same heart for that place, and, you know, don't let it die. You know, it lives in our hearts, and it makes us who we are as people now, and it is a culture, and it is a lifestyle, and you never have to just let it die. You know, you can. It helps me a lot to just sit down and think about it sometimes, and don't ever forget the things that you learned when we were at that place. You know, don't forget that sunset, and don't forget that fire pit. You know, man, because it really pulls me back to true north. You know, and I want to see all of, like, even the ones I didn't get along with back then or whatever. We were kids, man.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, we're all grown men now, and I want to see all of them just doing well, you know. And you know, I got myself back, and it was thanks to that slab of concrete. You know, I was able to find that little kid that would not give up, man. You know, so I owe a big part of my life and who I am to that place. So yeah, that's you know, my message just to the ones that were part of it. Don't let it die, man, because it's a bigger part of you than you might know.
Yeah, for sure. I assume because you're looking to be somebody that helps other people, that you're open to people contacting you if they have questions in regards to your recovery and or looking for help. How can people get a hold of you?
Absolutely. Well, you can add me on Facebook. That's, you know, my social media. My Instagram is Furry Fool 2.0. All right. Not the first one. You don't want that one. The 2.0 is the Instagram you want to get at. You know, my Facebook is Matty Carruthers. You know, I'm online whenever I'm home. I can drop a phone number. I'll give a phone number to Steve after, and if anyone reaches out to him and they want to speak with me personally, I can give him the phone number to reach me at. And you know, once I get further down and I got some more of my own platforms kind of going, I can come and we can maybe work something out
for
where
sure.
We can get it out there and
for sure
and stuff. But yeah, for now, absolutely, man. Facebook, Instagram, hit my inbox up, add me up. You know, I'm pretty loud and proud about my recovery. It's it was no secret that I was in the problem, you know. So I'm pretty loud and proud about it because I really want to reach someone and try and help someone wherever I can. You know, I hurt a lot of people in my addiction. It only makes sense that I help as many as I can in recovery. So yeah, I'm not hard to find on there, you know? So, yeah, if anybody does have anything they want to talk about or whatever, or have any questions about it, I know the way to get people into detox centers or into rehab centers or whatever, any way that they want to go. If they want to, you know, go to a meeting or learn the 12 steps or anything like that, I got contacts. Most of them are in Winnipeg, but they're just as available as I am.
Yeah.
You know, they work the same program I do. So, and Zoom is awesome, man. Like I can go to meetings in New York, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like right now, you know, and like that is awesome. Like that's helped me a lot, man. Because I'm a bit of an introvert. I always was, you know, so I don't like to go out a lot, man. So I can sit and go to an AA or an NA meeting right there on my couch, and I can hit 2 or 3 or 4 a day if I want, man. Right? So like there really is no excuse, right? Like so if you really want it, it's pretty easy to get submerged in that lifestyle. So absolutely, man. Anybody that's struggling out there with addictions, you know, don't hesitate to message me, even if it's a hello, you know, anything. Just get my attention and we'll talk. I'm just as good as listening as I am at talking. Apparently, I'm pretty good at talking. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
Thanks so much for coming.
Yeah.
Appreciate having you.
I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah.
Awesome. Therapeutic for sure.
Right on.
Right on.